Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we are going to review the new Netflix animated series, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which is currently on Netflix. All 8 episodes are there for your viewing pleasure. How are we doing, everybody? This was a show that I was super highly anticipating because I am a huge, gigantic, super fan of the 2010 film Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which was written and directed by Edgar Wright, and it starred Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Chris Evans, Anna Kendrick, Brie Larson, Allison Bill, R.B. Plaza, Mark Webber. The list goes on and on and on. And they all reprise their roles in this show, in voiceover form. And I was like, oh man, that is neat. That is pretty cool. You know, you don't really see that too often when we get two different mediums that feature the same cast, whether they're in live action or in voiceover form for the animated versions. So I felt that was kind of unique and exciting to explore. A little backstory on the 2010 film, live action film. I That movie caught me off guard when it came out. Wasn't a big hit. It wasn't a hit at all in theaters. I recall when I went to go see it in theaters, I think it was me and two other people in the theater when I went to go see Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And it was opening weekend. And I was like, oh man, this is not good. And I guess it was like that around the rest of the country and the world because it didn't do well at the theaters. And I tried my best to get people to go see this movie. I'm like, man, you got to see this movie. This is perfection. It is a perfect movie, and it is one of my top 5 favorite movies ever made. I hands down. No matter how we list it, 1 through 5, I don't care, but it falls in the 5. It is a perfect movie to me. And so when this was announced, I was kind of skeptical, but then I said, nah, is this going to be kind of a rehashing of the original, or is this going to be a different take on it or whatever? We'll see. Let's see how this goes. The premise to Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the series set in Toronto, Canada, serves as an alternate retelling of the original Scott Pilgrim graphic novel series. Like the original series, Scott Pilgrim, a bassist in an indie band, falls in love with Ramona Flowers, a mysterious delivery girl, attracting the attention of Ramona's 7 evil exes. Things make an unexpected turn, however, when Scott actually loses his battle against Ramona's first evil ex, Matthew Patel, and is seemingly killed. As everyone's lives, including those of Ramona's evil exes, change drastically as a result, Ramona learns that Scott may be alive and decides to investigate his disappearance. I'm gonna tell you, this show had a unique and fun way to tell the same story, but swerve you. Swerve you in the best sense. The first episode, we start off and it's just like the movie, and it's like carbon copy. And I was cool with it. I was like, okay, so this is just the animated version of the movie. All right, that's fine. I accepted that. And towards the end of the episode, it swerves you with this depth. Now, you learn that in the synopsis what this is. Plus, you can get it from the title. Now, I will say this: I didn't know that going in. I didn't know any of this going in because I didn't want to know. I just wanted to watch it. So this caught me off guard. Of course, I should have caught the hint by the title, but it is what it is. Yeah, at the end of the first episode, it lets you know, no, this is not Scott Pilgrim versus the world. This is a different take. This is somewhat of a multiverse version of it, an alternate reality of that movie. And at the same time, self-aware of that movie when you watch the show and you get the story that's going on. I'm not going to spoil anything in the show because I want everybody to really watch this show, if especially if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And if you haven't watched that, that is also on Netflix. Check that out, then watch this animated series. You will enjoy it. It is a joy. It really was. It was great to hear all of these actors' voices come from an animated version of their live action selves from 2010. It just brought a new authentic feel to this animated show. It I can't put my finger on it. I can't find the adjective to describe it, but it is really a joy. It just felt like it fit in that universe, so to speak, because these are the same actors. Even though you don't see their faces, their voices match. When I can tell you this much, it kind of throws you off that Scott Pilgrim isn't the lead here. If that's what you're going in and want to follow Scott Pilgrim like you did in the film, it was his story. It was Scott Pilgrim's story in that movie, and you followed him and cheered him on. This go around, it is Ramona Flowers' story. This is her show. She is the true lead of this series. And it was a very exciting way to tell this story because you get it from a different perspective. And every episode is from a different perspective of the evil exes. All of the evil exes have a different story because we didn't get backstories and character motivations in the film. You know, they just popped up. I'm one of Ramona's evil ex-boyfriends and or whatever, and or evil exes, not boyfriends, because there is a girl involved too. And so that you have them just pop up in the film, but here we get so much stories. Every episode is basically Ramona going to one of her evil exes and trying to find out what happened to Scott, because she finds out something during her investigation that leads her to believe that Scott is alive. So we go down this rabbit hole with these evil exes. It is such a good show that way. Every episode was something different, yet still connecting to the Scott Pilgrim universe. And I'm telling you, I have to tip my hat to this show on how innovative it was in the way they told this story. I never read the graphic novel, so I don't know if this comes straight from the graphic novels per se, but man, this is great. Man, this was great. The voice cast, I mean, all the voice cast was the voice cast. They were great. Nobody was bad here. I didn't really have a negative with the voiceover work here. One thing I will say, and it's not a negative, Mary Elizabeth Winstead in the movie, she plays Ramona as well as on the show too. But in the movie, I found her a little bland in the movie. Now, I enjoyed her performance to a certain degree because she basically was what she was. It was no it was no more, no less. This who the character was. There was really no arc to her character per se. There was, but it just didn't really work. That was my only negative with that movie. But it still worked for the movie. That's why it's still a perfect movie to me. But here in this series, she gave an amazing performance. amazing performance as Ramona Flowers, probably due to the fact that she is the lead. The lead that we wasn't expected to be the lead, but she was the lead in this show. And every episode was about her. Every episode opened, and this was also a good little storytelling element. Every episode opened with Ramona dyeing her hair a different color, which I found very cool. For some reason, I actually enjoyed that a lot. Other standouts from the cast, I have to say Chris Evans. I mean, Chris Evans is Chris Evans. He delivers even in bad movies. But my favorite has to be young Neil, who is voiced by Johnny Simmons. I love I love young Neil. I loved him in the movie, and I love him in this series. He is the unsung hero to me. I enjoyed him so much in this show, and this is where this show is not superior to the movie, but does more to the movie because we get characters flushed out more that we didn't get in the film. Young Neil is flushed out a little more. You know, we still don't get any backstory per se, but there's more to play with here. And the time that he has in this show is a joy. Every time he's on screen is a joy because in the film he was only in about two or three scenes, maybe. Maybe he had about two or three lines in each scene. It was nothing there, but his lines were funny in the film. He was a funny character. But here, I mean, my God, he was he was in here just killing it. I mean, I was dying laughing. I laughed a lot, but I really almost rolled off the sofa, uh, holding my stomach whenever young Neil was in this show. Another standout is Ellen Wan, who voices Knives Child. It did an excellent job as well. Just everybody brought it. I could go through every character here and pretty much say the same thing. They all brought it, but those stood out to me the most. To summarize, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. This series I think will be a surefire hit for Netflix, especially with fans of this franchise. It completely reinvents the primary story from the Edgar Wright film, and it offers a brand new angle on this Scott Pilgrim Ramona Flowers complicated romance, should I say. Even even with I would say a little I don't know, pacing issue towards the end of this series. This is 8 episodes, and I would say around episode 6, maybe 6 and 7. Well, 6, 7, and 8. It kind of the pacing is a little off. It's not. I don't know how to describe it, but it's such a well paced show because I flew through it. I blew through those 8 episodes in one sitting. Every episode is about 27 minutes long. It's a very quick sit, but the last few episodes, I would say the last three, the pace kind of slowed up, and you could tell. But besides that, this is a funny, and nostalgic ride, especially if you're a fan of the 2010 film. I think if you love that movie, you're definitely going to love Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which I give a letter grade of an A minus. I think it is a very well made show. The animation style, the anime style of it, oh man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. Good for the eyes and the ears. Even if you're not a fan of the series and you've never seen the movie, I think you will enjoy this show. I really do. It is a fun ride. Well written, well acted. The voice actors did great, as I said ad nauseum. And it's a quick watch. It's not gonna hurt nothing. You get it in one afternoon, and that's how I watched it, in one afternoon. I would like to know if you've seen it. How did you feel about it, or are you planning on checking it out? email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on all social media platforms. Just look up the KB Radio Network. Also, look up the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe and like this video. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Netflix new animated series, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Currently on Netflix, all 8 episodes to binge. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.